page number 141. After we had walked a little further, he said, I will tell you a story that Babuji often narrated. It's on page 140. Darji proceeded to tell the tale of an ascetic monk who went to seek alms from a king. Arriving at the king's palace, the ascetic was informed that the king was occupied in prayer. However, since the ascetic was a holy man, he would be allowed to sit with the king as he prayed. The ascetic man was led to the prayer room. Noticing the arrival of the holy man, the king turned to the ascetic and welcomed him, but asked for his patience, as he had not yet completed his prayers. The ascetic sat with him, quietly observing. O Lord, prayed the king, please grant me victory over my enemies. Grant me more territories, make my kingdom wealthy, and make me a great king. The king continued in this manner for a few minutes when all of a sudden the ascetic stood up and started moving his way, making his way to the door. Wait, said the king, you have just arrived. Why do you now take leave? Your Highness, said the ascetic to the king, I had come here to beg alms from you, but now I see that you are a beggar, just as I am. So I will go and beg from the one from whom you are begging. So it's better to beg directly from God rather than indirectly. To grovel on your knees seeking blessings and benefits is somewhat a crass affair, said Daji. We can equate praying for personal enlightenment to a situation in which a person marries for money. The relationship is cheapened. It matters little whether the benefits we seek are material or spiritual in nature. In both cases, such an approach would be against the nature's harsh etiquette. Okay? So, underline that in both cases, such an approach would be an etiquette against the heart etiquette. For example, some people approach the ultimate for fear of being condemned to hell. Others approach him out of temptation for the heavenly abode. But to seek any return on love is sacrilege. Underline that. To seek any return on love is sacrilege. In doing so, we damage our relationship with our Maker. At best, it becomes like a business relationship. At worst, it becomes like a bribery. This is why the notion of love for love's sake has been so highly extolled. A true lover of the heart has no ulterior motives. They care nothing for heaven or hell, for blessings or spiritual advancement. They are content with love. Do not ask for mere gifts when you can have the giver. Only love can make this possible. Underline that. Do not ask for mere gifts. Ask for the lover himself. When you can have the giver, why not take it? And how to have the giver? By love. Suppose, for instance, that you have to give a gift to someone you love. You think and think about what would suit them best. You buy it and lovingly wrap it. However, when presenting it to your loved ones, that person snatches it out of your hands, rips off the paper, and rushes away with it, all without any acknowledgement. How do you think that would make you feel? They accepted your gift while ignoring its giver. Well, if you really love that person, you won't mind at all. However, they have missed the point of your gift. Right? This is exactly what happens when masters bestow the spiritual gifts on our heart. The moment they say that's all, we open our eyes, we start moving our hand, we start getting up, and then rushing towards the breakfast. So basically, you have ignored the giver. So that's exactly what is the example given earlier on. They won't mind at all. So masters won't mind at all. But we have missed the point of our gift, the gift that they have given. To give is an act of love, and as such, its purpose is to bring the giver and the receiver together. Underline that. To give is an act of love, and the purpose is to bring the giver and the receiver together. A blessing has no meaning if it does not lead to a state of intimacy with the giver. As another example, take the case of a person who endears himself to a rich relative in order to become their heir. He may get the inheritance, but he is also lost a lot in the process. The sanctity of the relationship is ruined. Duryodhana is about to go for war. with the Pandavas, and then he goes and seeks blessings from his parents. So Gandhari refuses to bless him with victory. Gandhari is a very devoted lady, and her devotion was towards Lord Shiva. And then he goes and begs her or seeks her blessing 2, 3 times. Each time she refuses to beg to bless him with victory. And then Duryodhana asks Gandhari, "Why don't you give me the blessing of victory?" So now he's more direct. He went there with the hope that she will bless him with victory. And if she blesses her, definitely it will come to fructification because she's actually has lot of devotional power. But if she refuses, then directly he asks her, "Why don't you give me the blessing of victory?" Then mother says, Gandhari says, "Just take what you have been given. It's not for the seeker of blessings to demand this or that blessing. When you become a seeker of blessing, you just take what is given to you. You should not demand this or that blessing." Because she knows that her son is on the wrong side of Dharma. So she refuses to bless him with victory. But then see that refusal to bless Duryodhana with victory now takes on a different form. When she sees Krishna for the first time after the war, she's seething with anger because she's lost all her sons, 100 sons. So that the same Gandhari who refused to bless Duryodhana with victory uh, curses Krishna that let his family also be destroyed like her own family. So it is that manifestation of that love which was now suppressed, which could not express fully, comes out in full force as anger towards Krishna. And she curses Krishna's family, saying that like the way that our family fought each other and got eliminated, let your family also fight each other and they also get eliminated. In a way, that is blessing only because otherwise Krishna's family had become so powerful that they were the only family on earth who would rule the entire earth. And Krishna could have not done anything about it. So Gandhari's blessing is a curse is a blessing for Krishna. Then at least he saved the job of destroying his own family. So that's how nature works through both blessings and through curses. So on one hand, if Gandhari had not cursed Krishna's family, the Yaduvamsha would not have got destroyed. If they had not got destroyed, then the whole earth will be ruled by one family. And nature does not like it. Nature always likes variety. And although that's the reason why youngsters keep saying, we also like variety. We are in tune with nature. In all activities, we like variety. Like nature likes variety. But nature's variety is a manifestation of that unity which is behind in various forms. Our variety, which is out of, although we say that at the surface level we are in tune with nature because the nature is also seeking to express in variety, we are also trying to experience variety of experiences. But we miss the point in the sense that there is unity at the background as far as expression of variety in the front is concerned in nature. But the unity at the back is what we miss out on. When we latch on to variety without the experience of the unity behind, we are not fully in tune with nature. Does it make sense? Otherwise, Bharat and Gopal Krishna will go on various trips around the year and say that we are in tune with nature. They will go and explore many different things. And for everything, they can give one answer. We are in tune with nature. I'm following maxim 4. Not only I'm following maxim 4, I'm following it maximally. This is what will happen. But when you are in tune with nature, you are actually in tune with the unity behind that expression of variety. That is the real essence. And that is what actually you are going towards in spirituality. That unity, which is the reality behind the expression of that variety. What is expressing in variety? It's the same reality which is in unity, which is expressing in variety. So when we have awareness of the both and establish in that state effortlessly, then you can see, you can be said to be in tune with nature um, fully. Okay. So now he's talking about the sanctity of relationship. Suppose when the disciple outgrows the guru, it's the endeavor of all gurus to make sure that the shishya grows beyond them, right? That's what everyone wants. But then, if the disciple then starts mm, making the master subjugated, so to say, in other words, in spite of however much we grow as a disciple, we still retain that master in the position of master only. When you do that, the sanctity of the relationship is maintained. You might outgrow the master, but to maintain the sanctity of the relationship is also one of the primary duties of the disciple. Babuji is given the title, the maker of the universe. Okay. And Lalaji and Vivekananda reveal about it. But then Babuji says that does not change anything as far as my relationship with my master goes. And let this blessing be like this forever. That my relationship with the master be like this only. Babuji outgrows Lalaji in the sense that nature chooses Babuji for all its work and makes him the primary medium for everything that is coming down. And now Lalaji says, now you are the maker of the universe. Whatever you wish is a order for us. We cannot question it. We have to follow your orders. But even at that stage, Babaji says, let my relationship with Master be maintained in the same way for eternity. And Babaji writes, I have nothing to do with God because it was not God who helped me to reach this stage. At every stage, it was only the Master who helped me. So why should I be concerned with God? God has nothing to do with me. So I'm not at all worried about God. My only issue is with my Master. And let this relationship with Master be maintained for eternity. Now that is the fundamental feeling behind which maintains the sanctity of the relationship. Many relationships break down because we break down the sanctity of the relationship. When the sanctity of the relationship is broken down, the relationship will not last. It breaks down. The first and foremost thing that breaks is not the relationship itself. The first and foremost thing that breaks in any relationship is the sanctity. Once the sanctity is broken, then it's just a matter of time that the relation will be gone. Just remember. Now look at all the relationships that you have actually either got broken or kind of just gone with nature over time. Look at what has happened in these relationships. Most of the time, if you actually go to the bottom of it, what would have happened is the sanctity of the relationship would have broken. In other words, when does the sanctity break in the relationship? When the ego starts coming into the relationships, you start breaking the relationship. In every relationship, There is a particular role that the two people play in that particular relationship. You take any relationship for that matter. When two people are involved, there are two roles. So even if you say there are two friends, each one is a friend of the other. So there is a role of friend that is being played. There is a lover and the beloved. There is the master and the servant. There is a teacher and the disciple. So there are two roles which are being played. When these two roles are actually changed as and when the relationship emerges, the sanctity is broken. Of course, you can actually ask this question. When Radha started loving Krishna, she was uttering the word Krishna, Krishna all the time from her heart. Then, when the love reaches a peak, now Krishna starts uttering the word Radha, Radha. Now the role has reversed, so to say. But remember, the sanctity is still maintained. The loving relationship is maintained. Rather than the direction flowing this way, it's flowing that way. Now that is at the epitome or at the highest peak of that particular relationship. At the peak of the relationship, the roles change. Now look at the example I gave you of Babuji and Lalaji. Babuji was the master and Lalaji was his disciple. At the peak of the relationship, what happened? Babuji is now overtaken Lalaji, and Lalaji says, now whatever you wish is the orders for us. So the roles have changed. But in spite of the nature changing the roles, Babuji still continues to maintain his relationship gradient with the master, Lalaji. So in our heart, it should not change. Nature might change it, but in our heart, we should continue to maintain that relationship. Does it make sense? So our relationship with our parents will never change. We are always their children. Our relationship with our teachers will not change. We are always their students. We might outgrow. The teacher might be a lecturer in the college or school. You might become a big scientist in a big organization. But that relationship of the fact that they were the teacher and you were the student will never change throughout the life. If you now go back to your teacher and say, what is it that you know? I know so many things as a scientist. You don't know anything. That means you have damaged the sanctity of the relationship forever. So when we actually maintain the sanctity of the relationship, we actually maintain humility. What is the benefit of maintaining the sanctity of the relationship? We actually maintain humility and develop humility to a higher level. The more higher you grow, the more humble you have to become to acknowledge all the relationships that you have gone through. And there are a lot of people who have actually played a role in making us what we are at any point of time. And we should acknowledge the role of each and everyone. So there is a poem in Kannada by Kuvempu. And the last line I remember, this is a poem that we by-hearted when we were in the 8th standard. ಏರಿದವನು ಚಿಕ್ಕವನಿರಬೇಕಲೇ ಎಂಬ ಮಾತನ್ನು ಸಾರುವನು. Look at sun. That's about sun actually. So when you see the sun at the horizon, it appears very big. As it goes across in the sky, in the middle of the afternoon, it appears very small. The further higher it goes, the smaller it becomes. So that is exactly what is written in Kannada. Yeridavanu, the one who goes higher, chikkavan irabekalle. You should become smaller and smaller and insignificant as you grow higher and higher. The more higher you grow, the more insignificant you should become. So ಏರಿದವನು ಚಿಕ್ಕವನಿರಬೇಕಲೇ ಎಂಬ ಮಾತನ್ನು ಸಾರುವನು. So he's practically showing how you should be in life. That as you grow higher, you should become more and more humble, more and more insignificant in life. So that is your greatness. Being humble and down to earth in spite of your growth is your greatness. Now that is what people will see in the greatness. You are not going to boast about the greatness. People will see that greatness. That is what is going to happen. Okay? Ganesh, you came forward. I pushed you back again. Now you can come forward.
I was just thinking, is it not better not to know where you are? Like, continue to do.
If you don't know where you are, how are you going to guide somebody? If you are going to be an abhyasi, if you don't want to know about where you are, it's okay. But if you are going to become a trainer, you need to know. That's part of the training. And you will only be able to teach others if you know how to know, right? So it is different as far as an abhyasi or a preceptor is concerned. As an abhyasi, even if you don't know, it doesn't matter. But even there, not knowing is not the way approach of the science. If you think of spirituality as science, we give importance to knowing in science. All experiments are to know only in science, right? It's not blind journey. Science does not encourage blind journey. So spirituality is a science. In spirituality also, we don't encourage blind journey. So aspect of knowing is the only thing is how do you know in spirituality versus how do you know in science. In spirituality, experience is what actually makes you know certain things. Feelings is what helps you know certain things. But in science, the material sense, it is the experiments that you do outside that actually helps you know certain things. In science, since you are doing the experiment outside, that experiment might be in tune with nature or not. But in spirituality, the experience that is in tune with nature is what is going to tune with reality is what is going to teach you. Okay, the experience which are out of tune with nature is not going to teach you anything. Out of tune with reality. So spiritual journey is the journey which is in tune with reality. So we let go of more and more of our creation. We align more and more to God's creation. That's what happens in spiritual journey. That is spiritual science. You let go of more and more of the things that you know of individual creation. You get to know more and more of divine creation, which is the reality behind. That is spiritual journey. But that's not what happens in a science experiment. We modulate what is there already in creation and we get to know. It's like playing certain toys and getting to know few things without necessarily trying to understand what are the laws operating in making these toys do the things that they are doing. Every object of creation is nothing but a toy in front of God. Every object of creation, right? He is just pulling the strings from behind. And we are holding to some of these toys and then doing this way and that way, thinking that we are pulling the string. When we have no clue where is the string. That's how it is. You are given the freedom to work with the object. But until unless you actually align towards reality, you will not know what are the strings which are controlling that object. So a materialistic person also plays with the object. A spiritual person also plays with the object. The difference is the materialistic person plays with the object without knowing the strings which are pulling it from behind. A spiritual person plays with the object, being fully aware of the strings which are pulling it from behind. That is the difference. Both are playing with the objects of nature. So this I am telling for the sake of our youngsters. They should not feel that after Vairagya, they are not allowed to play. You are allowed to play with all objects of nature like before. The only difference is you will play with the objects of nature with the knowledge of the strings which is operating behind. So since you are now aware of the strings which are operating behind, you can actually modulate and change the object of nature. Now, when you don't know the strings which are pulling from behind, you can only play in certain ways. When you know the string also, you can actually play in a wholesome way. Does it make sense? So that's why when you actually get to know the strings behind, you actually have more satisfaction in playing with the objects of nature. You are more happy. Okay. So it's a very important lesson. What's the difference? Because both the spiritual person does not stop working with the objects of nature. It's not, there is a very wrong thing that is given that a spiritual person is a person who is like a forest dweller away from the objects of nature. Nothing of that kind. A core spiritual person lives amongst us, amongst all the materialistic person. The only difference is the way that they play with the objects of nature will be way different than people in the materialistic realm. People in the materialistic realm play with the objects of nature blindly. A spiritual person plays with the object of nature fully awake, aware, and alert. So that answers your question also, Ganeshan.
Yeah, I agree.
So that is the thing. And then you will enjoy the play.
Yes, yes.
Not only you will enjoy the play, you will actually be willingly be part of the play. Right? So suppose a director says there is a role of villain which is actually necessary for this play to continue. And if you are aware of everything, then you will play the role of a villain. You have no qualms. Oh, no, no, no. I want to only play the role of a hero. I don't want to play villain. At the end of the day, you will realize that this is just a play of God. So the role of the villain is also part of the game of God only. So why will you actually worry about the roles? So that differentiation, that dvandva will disappear. Once you get to know the working behind nature, the dvandva aspect now disappears. That is freedom. So in that sense, you'll realize there is nothing called as good or bad. All it's our own imagination. There is things, that's all. There is no good thing or bad thing in nature. Everything has its own importance or existence in the scheme of God. And each one has to play its role. That is what happens. And that is what actually makes you more and more develop gratitude towards God. Now, I was just reading this whisper today morning. You read the whisper today morning?
No, yet to read.
Just hold on. I'll just read that whisper. It was a very nice whisper. Even on other planes, you will have to push yourself to the limit. Service never ends. Your requests have been heard and you have been chosen. Then you have to take responsibility. This is where we all stand. It's a joy. It's the same for you. We know it. What is more important than being at the center service of the Creator? We are only particles in motion carried by the power of His action. To be a seeker is to contribute one's own free will to this ceaseless activity that is part of the universal flow. Being a millstone in this grand design slows down evolution considerably. Consider the vagaries of nature as incidents of little importance. Tomorrow, in 10 years, what will they represent? Be happy to be what you are and where you are. Be thankful for all the graces that you receive. See only this aspect of life. Be happy with whatever you are, wherever you are. Be grateful for that. She's actually complaining. You know, she had a persistent demand. Her demand is that she has to become like a young girl. That's her demand. And she puts forth this demand to all the people who come to speak to her, including this venerable. I want to experience the life of a young child. See, she's been chosen as a medium, but she's still not ready to let go of her human likes and dislikes, human desires. So yesterday's and today's message is actually like that. In fact, if you just look at yesterday's message, it's even more interesting. The yesterday's message, the medium, forgive me, venerable, for reacting this way, but I need some concrete results to re-motivate myself, even if they are not visible in me. She's challenging the venerable that you need to show me certain evidence so that I feel motivated to do your work. Otherwise, I'm not going to do your work. See how much we actually show resistance to the work. So she's like any one of the human beings. She's at that stage actually.
It's something similar to Krishna and Arjuna.
Exactly.
Brother, just
Arjuna,
one.
when Arjuna sees Krishna's Vishwarupa, he trembles with fear. He starts shaking. Then he starts prostrating to Krishna and then asks forgiveness out of fear, not out of love. Remember, Arjuna asks forgiveness of Krishna out of fear when he sees the Vishwarupa. Then Krishna comes back to his normal form. Arjuna requests, I cannot manage this form. Please come back to my friendly form that I was actually used to dealing with you. So he comes back to this friendly form. Then again he asks forgiveness of Krishna. I thought that you are my friend. I have put my hands over you. I have actually joked about you. No, please forgive me for all those things. It's very interesting. If you read the Bhagavad Gita, no, once that Vishwarupa Darshan is over, how Arjuna's response is. Remember, Arjuna is like any other human being. Arjuna did not get over fear at all, fully. He retained aspects of the fear, and he actually trembles with fear when he sees Krishna's Vishwarupa. And all his act subsequently is not out of love. And he again forgets Krishna, the Vishwarupa. Within 6 days, he doesn't care about Krishna. Whatever you say, I'm not going to do, I'm going to do what I want. This is what happens. The teachings of Krishna, Arjuna, does not even last 6 days. It's gone in 5 days. On the sixth day, Arjuna is like playing toys with Bhishma. Bhishma is killing everyone. Arjuna is playing toys. Krishna says, if you are not going to kill this Bhishma, I am only going to kill. And then Krishna lifts his Sudarshan Chakra to kill Bhishma. Then Arjuna realizes his promise that Krishna had said that he is not going to lift a weapon in this war. So again, Arjuna realizes his mistake and goes and falls to his feet. No, 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 please, I will play. Now I will fight seriously. Come. That's the beauty of it. See, many times I tell people, Arey, how many days Krishna was the best teacher? Experientially, he gave all the conditions to Arjuna. And Arjuna was the best disciple. In spite of the best teacher and best disciple, how many days the effect of Bhagavad Gita last on Arjuna? 5 days. Sixth day he had forgotten. And we people think by reading Bhagavad Gita, we are going to realize ourselves. When Krishna himself taught Bhagavad Gita to Arjuna, the best disciple, he did not realize himself. And we think that by reading Bhagavad Gita repeatedly, we will realize ourselves. See the foolishness. And by reading Bhagavad Gita, do you think that we are going to get the conditions in Bhagavad Gita? Definitely not. If we read it by ourselves, how will we get the conditions? So even when the conditions were given to you, Arjuna, he did not realize himself. In 5 days, he forgot. But we think that just by reading Bhagavad Gita, without the backing of the conditions, we can realize the self. It just heights of foolishness, so to say. So it's very, very interesting. It's only 5 days, and repeatedly he forgets it. Then again on the 13th day, when Babruan, our Abhimanyu is killed, again he makes a chapata that if I'm not going to kill Jayadratha, I'm going to take I'm going to jump into the fire and kill myself. Other Krishna again scolds him. You people have gone mad. Why are you people making vow after vow? For you make the vow and then I have to try to protect you and make it happen. Why are you troubling me all the time? That Bhishma took the vow that he's going to break Duryodhana's thigh. Now I have to protect that also. So since you people are my bhaktas, I have to protect whatever vow you make. And you don't know to what extent I have to go and get into trouble to make sure that your vow actually manifests. So he keeps saying that if you take a vow like that, you're actually tying your hands. Why do you want to tie your hands? Krishna never makes a vow in his life. He's always free to do what he wants to do at any time. But Arjuna and the Pandavas are like normal human beings. If they get angry, they'll take a vow. I'll do this, and if I don't do this, I will become like this. And then at one point of time, Krishna says, even Ishvara is like Shiva is like that only. He goes on giving uh, uh, what do you say the blessings to Rakshasas, huh? And you don't know to what extent I have to go to keep those blessings. How much trouble I have to undertake to keep those blessings intact and then still make the working of the nature continue. So blessings sometimes can actually become a trap for us. In fact, all the Rakshasas would have been better off without their special blessings. It's only after they get the special blessings from Brahma or Ishvara that they actually become very egoistic. And that egoism is what destroys them. If they had not got the blessing itself, they were fine anyway. They would have led a long and happy life. The blessings make them go ballistic, and that egoism destroys them in due course of time. That is what happens. This is in just the stories, and all the stories in Puranas are just like this only. Rakshasas are there normally. They worship either Brahma or Shiva because they don't like Vishnu. And then either Brahma or Shiva grants them a boon. Once they get the boon, they feel that they become invincible. They start, what do you say, mm, ruling over other people, trampling on the rights of other people. When we trample on the rights of other people, that is the seed of destruction. When we live in life in such a way that we don't trample upon the rights of other people, there is no seed of destruction sown. The seed of destruction is when we trample upon the rights of other people. That is the seed of destruction. Please remember. Okay. So don't take as like this medium is doing. Don't demand blessings. Don't demand evidence for blessings. Yesterday's message when I was reading, I was just laughing. Arre, how, what do you say, adamant was this our medium. And then how these people from the higher sources have to pacify, like they pacify a small child and then get them to do the work that they are supposed to get it done. See, remember, all higher souls, they don't have many options. It's like the Tina factor. The Tina factor is there is no alternative. In spiritual world, there is no alternative. Each and every person who is doing the spiritual work is absolutely essential. But then that Tina factor should not become something that's going to raise your ego. But Tina factor is definitely at work. As you go higher and higher in the hierarchy, the number of people who are capable of doing that subtle kind of work becomes less and less. Not many people are able to actually do that higher level subtle work. So the Tina factor is definitely at work. So the higher souls also have to go along with the adamancy of the selected souls for their work.
But if you see the message, it is coming in 2000. It's not a recent message. That is the period actually, the transformation also took more. It's my experience. Uh, Somewhere around 25 years back, this message was received.
What we are seeing in these messages in the last few weeks is how the human mind is reacting to the possible transformation. So if you take Helen as a medium, as a human soul, it has the medium, it has the mind, it has all the likes and dislikes, it has its own way of thinking. So it is not yet ready to surrender to the higher force fully. So it wants this wish or that wish to be fulfilled. And then only it's going to surrender to this. And it wants evidence. What is the thing that is happening? So actually, if you just look at yesterday's message, no, it says Read the next line. There are results in which in you which are not visible. Can you access the consciousness of each of your cells? Do you control each of your organs as well as your subtle bodies? So what are you blaming us for? For not being in front of you in flesh to explain everything to you? Your beloved told you yesterday that he too went through the moments of discouragement and rebellion. Nothing is that simple. Everything must be earned little by little. Persevere by following the few guidelines we are giving you. They are bound to produce results. Nature does its work slowly, imperceptibly. A tree does not cover itself with leaves in a day. Observe nature in spring and you will understand the phenomenon. Surrender yourself to the divine will which works for your good and whatever you may think and despite appearances. See that point that they're making? Can you access consciousness, changes in the consciousness in each and every cell? We change little by little, imperceptibly. So one of the best examples to give is, can anyone observe the growth of the child that happens right in front of their eyes? Nobody can see the change in the child that happens every day in front of their eyes. But you look at the child 1 week, 1 month down the line, the child has changed. It has grown. It has changed. But when the changes itself is happening, you cannot feel it. That's exactly how nature's work. Nature's work occurs imperceptibly. But after some period of time, you can see the changes.
Yeah, one experience I would like to share, brother. This was almost 15 years back. By the time I was started meditation and all, it was somewhere around at 5:30 in the morning. I was sitting inside the compound wall, but outside my house. Uh, it was the trees were there in front of me. Uh, Suddenly, I felt like sitting for a meditation for 5 minutes. Before sitting, I saw the bud, mm, flower bud. But after 5 minutes, I opened my eyes and see the flower it has bloomed completely. Um, I also felt something as a sort of an energy also getting into me, which bloomed. I was after my meditation. When I opened and saw it was bloomed immediately. But uh, I have not I have not seen experienced it blooming it, but within a matter of 5 minutes it bloomed suddenly. So that's where I felt like that is the time where the energy flows automatically, the flowers bloom and all.
Ramakrishna Paramahamsa also had this experiment. So there's a flower which is giving a particular, there's a plant which is giving a particular color of flower, a red flower, something like that, some color. And then his willpower was so strong. I'm just giving you an example of willpower. Then somebody says that this plant is only bound to give this color flower only. Then Ramakrishna Paramahamsa says, if God willing, it can give any color flower. Okay. Next day, a new flower comes in the plant and it's of a different color. The day before, Ramakrishna would have said that if God willing, it can give any other color flower also. Why only this color flower? So next day, he actually sees that flower, a different color flower in the same plant. Now he goes running like a child to this person who said it can only give this color flower. He had developed attunement with divine so much that whatever he willed was bound to occur. So the plant changes the color of the flower that it gives because he had uttered those words. That is what happens when you align with the Brahm, the Bhuma. Whatever you utter, the more higher you go in terms of alignment with the Bhuma, the more faster the fructification or the manifestation of what you say. Okay, just remember that. So sometimes one of the signs that we have to actually look for is how much of the sankalpa is manifesting and how fast is the sankalpa manifesting. Okay. And don't manifest the sankalpa in terms of, okay, let me have a round of lottery, 1 crore tomorrow morning. That's not in the material field. You are actually looking for the manifestation of the willpower in the spiritual field. Okay. So that's a very small example where the willpower manifests pretty fast. Okay. So coming up to 7:20, now our other students are waiting, the Kannada class people. So I think the